Soldering on aluminum is difficult. This is the documentation of the experience of a hobby project, made with the hope that it could be helpful to others. But any comment that could help me to improve my practice is welcome and appreciated. Aluminum sinks the heat very fast, and that makes soldering on it very difficult. Sometimes it is possible to achieve the result by using a very powerful soldering iron, but that would not work in all circumstances. In fact, depending on how the piece of aluminum is made, a different technique may be necessary. In this short video, only a few cases are considered, in particular only for aluminum sheets, and always only for the purpose of obtaining an electrical connection. On aluminum foil, it is possible to solder using a low-power soldering iron set for a temperature just above 200 degrees Celsius, good quality tin lead solder, and a solution of zinc chloride. If the soldering iron is set for higher temperatures, the aluminum foil would be dissolved. That is why the temperature should be controlled. The tip of the soldering iron should be just made of copper, because a more expensive one would be ruined by the usage of the acid. Nevertheless, the acid is applied first, but then removed before touching the spot with the soldering iron. Otherwise, it would be vaporized, cooling down the iron tip and, most importantly, generating residues that would make the soldering process impossible. Soldering on a slightly thicker aluminum sheet, like the one of an aluminum can, requires setting the same small soldering iron to about 300 degrees Celsius, the same acid solution, and a small stainless steel brush. This time, once the drop of acid is applied, it is possible to brush the area with it to help the adhesion of the solder. Soldering on a thicker aluminum sheet requires heat, which must be provided in addition to the soldering iron alone. This is a small electric hot plate which can reach a very decent temperature. A 2 mm thick aluminum sheet is used in this demonstration. The aluminum sheet is already clean, but more importantly, please notice that for this particular method no acid will be used. This is a low temperature solder based on tin and bismuth, which does not contain rosin. The absence of rosin is important because rosin would produce residues that would make the process more difficult. With the help of a pair of pliers, the sheet is held in place, and with a stainless steel brush the solder is distributed on almost all the surface of the hot aluminum sheet. In the end it is as if the sheet had been plated with solder. Even without the hot plate underneath, the aluminum sheet remains warm enough for a while, and it is possible to remove the excesses of solder using a small piece of cloth. When the aluminum is cold again, it is possible to solder on the plated surface using more common solder, but still of good quality. However, the soldering iron must be powerful, because the aluminum underneath always sinks the heat very quickly. On a different sheet of aluminum a smaller area has been plated, but on top of it a brass spacer is soldered. The result seems strong enough. The acid used in this video is zinc chloride, which is easy to make at home and therefore cheap. This acid is more specific for soldering on stainless steel, while in the market there is a different product with unknown formula made especially for aluminum. However, on very thin aluminum sheets the effectiveness is the same, while for soldering on thicker aluminum heat is what is needed, and the presence of acid, which would also immediately evaporate, becomes irrelevant or even counterproductive due to the residues that would interfere with the soldering process. The acid used in this video was made by pouring a few milliliters of muriatic acid in a glass container and adding a small piece of zinc. The chemical reaction releases toxic fumes, therefore it is mandatory to do this outdoors. The result is a yellowish liquid that should be kept in a container suitable for using only drops of it, without leaking.